The drama surrounding She-Hulk just does not seem to stop, as one of the showrunners is back at it again, calling out fans who did not enjoy the show. It has been well established by this point that most fans did not enjoy the She-Hulk series, with many calling out the poor writing and clear lack of direction. Although it can definitely be argued that the show was not meant to appeal to everyone, even some of the target audience felt that the show ultimately just fell flat. With all of the backlash that the show has received, a second season at this point does pretty much seem out of the question. Late last year, when asked about the potential of the show returning for another season, the showrunner stated that it did not seem likely that we will see any more of She-Hulk. Screen Rant reports, in a recent interview with Extra, Maslany addresses She-Hulk attorney at law's chances at a season 2 renewal. In a disappointing update, the She-Hulk actress reveals that she hasn't heard any talk about another season, and that based on Kevin's words in episode 9, she doesn't seem to be expecting any either. She is quoted as saying, I don't think so, yet. Kevin in the scene seems to be very dismissive of this idea, so, if we're basing this off of the real Kevin, it doesn't seem likely. But he was also, I think, just trying to get rid of Jen because she was asking too many questions. I don't know, if I could be coy and have some little secret, I would do that. But I really don't. I don't know anything. With this, some writers are still pushing back, insisting that there was never anything wrong with the show at all, blaming all of the backlash on toxic fans and those who simply did not understand the story. With that, some of the writers on the show are still going back and forth with fans on social media, hoping to start up a conversation around the show again and get more attention to show that the series could return for another season. One of the writers doing this is Dan Slott, who called out critics of the show, stating that those who did not like the show simply did not understand it because it was never meant for them. He started off on Twitter by saying, "Anyone saying the She-Hulk TV show wasn't comic book accurate. I'm the guy who has written more issues of She-Hulk than anyone. I've read every single comic from every She-Hulk run, and I'm saying, for the record, it is the most comic book accurate show in the MCU." He followed that up by saying, "Way too many people online don't understand the difference between this was bad and this was a bad fit for me. Not everything needs to be for you. There are tons of things for you, and things that are just for you. It's okay for some things to be for people who aren't you." She-Hulk definitely did have fans, and there were those who did enjoy the show. It would be accurate to say that some of the show was simply not for everyone, but it would also be wrong to assume that anyone who did not like the show simply had that opinion because it was never meant for them to begin with. I would say that if you enjoy comic books and have been watching the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then the show is for you. If not, for who is it then? Throughout the MCU, there are just going to be some movies and shows that are poorly done, and with it you need to accept that much of what you have done were bad. There seems to be an unwillingness to accept that many of the writing was not the best, so instead of reflecting on that, some of the writers just decide to call out all fans as toxic and call them sexist or racist, ignoring the fact that those same fans have called out other movies and series as well for being bad. Iron Man 2 famously received a lot of backlash for being bad, and so did the second Avengers movie as well as the last two Thor movies. Simply calling any backlash toxic without listening to the criticism is not really a good way to approach anything. With that, I will admit that there were some within the community who were never going to accept any that the show was going to do. It would be disingenuous to say that there were not any toxic fans review bombings, because there were, but they made up an extremely small portion of the fan base, with the majority of the fans feeling anger due to being called toxic for simply not liking the direction. Furthermore, I am not entirely sure what is meant by the statement, "The show is simply not for you." If I have been watching all of the DC cinematic universes and this show forms part of that universe with many of the same actors, then why would the show not be for me? If you made a show that excluded some of that fan base, then that was a bad call on you as a showrunner. It is crazy to think that you would build up a massive fan base over 10 years and then come out with a brand new series continuing that same story, but saying that it is no longer meant for some. The MCU is for everyone, and if your show or movie fails to capture that audience, then that is a failure on you as a showrunner and writer. All of the drama around the show did, however, continue, as one of the writers further went off on fans for calling out some of the scenes, pretty much insinuating that if you did not like it, it must be because you are a sexist. Slott, who wrote the relaunch of She-Hulk in 2004, pointed out on Twitter that the Marvel Cinematic Universe's first blockbuster features a scene in which Tony Stark is revealed to have a dancing pole built into his private jet, which is used by multiple women who double as flight attendants. He compares it unfavorably to She-Hulk, attorney at law's twerking scene, making the case that if either scene is worthy of criticism, it's the one featuring women being paid to dance for the pleasure of a male character, not the two women dancing together for fun. Once again, the comparison is a strange one to make. If you want to have a conversation about strippers, then we can have that, but comparing that to fans thinking that She-Hulk twerking is bad writing is a very strange thing, as the one has nothing to do with the other. It is a poor deflection and once again ignores why fans did not like some of the writing. Overall, it is clear why all of this is popping up once again. It is a common strategy and it happens all the time. As soon as interest around a show dies down, say something stupid and fall out the fans. All of a sudden you get attention again, and with that you can use it to get more out of the studio. The conversation around She-Hulk has completely died out, and this is a great way for the showrunners to start the conversation up again in the new year. It is a tried and tested strategy and it works like a charm every time.